What's going on, all of you fantastic freelancers? My name is William, the host of your Anthem, and I'm sorry about using the old intro, but I figured it would be the last time I could use it this year, so why not? As I'm sitting here in my chair looking back on the last year, I've been trying to figure out how I want to frame this video. And I can think of no better way to frame the video than go all the way back to where it all started, with the launch this year, and then go all the way to now, to make us appreciate a little bit more where we came from and where we are now. But before we get on to the video, I wanted to take a quick second to say thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart to each and every last one of you for your viewership, generosity, and support over this last year. I have legitimately read every comment you all have ever left, and I reply as always if there's conversational potential or if I just flat out have time. You all have made this journey a true blessing, and it has been an honor to be along with you all for this ride. But just as I am truly grateful to you all, I have to especially thank the BioWare dev team, both at BioWare Austin and Edmonton, for all of their hard work on Anthem over the last, 10 months? It's no secret that Anthem's launch didn't go the way any of us wanted it to, but at the same time, you cannot help but admire the dedication by the BioWare dev team from where we were to where we are now, and hopefully this video will make that even more clear. But without further ado, freelancers, let's suit up and take a flight down memory lane as we look back to the very beginning of Anthem's release. Now, as a fair heads up, this video is going to be very blunt, as it always has been. I give the good and the bad, and I give praise where it's deserved and constructive criticism where it is merited. As I previously mentioned before, Anthem's release didn't go quite as expected. As most of you know, EA invited a lot of us content creators out for one final play session of Anthem, where we captured a lot of footage and put it out there about a month before release. I was actually in the room at EA HQ when Anthem finally went gold, and that was easily one of the coolest moments of this year for me. However, launch day was kind of disappointing, and when I say launch day, I mean technically the release date for Anthem was February 22nd of 2019, but PC players had a 7-day early access, and Xbox players were able to play up to 10 hours before the game's full release. Unfortunately though, a lot of YouTubers, websites, journalists, and so on and so forth gave their early review before the Day 1 patch, and essentially bombed Anthem to the ground. The Day 1 patch didn't come until I think February 22nd or February 23rd, and why that was, I still don't know. However, I do remember waking up 2 hours early on the early access launch day for PC, showered, ready to go, and make a full day's worth of content. Instead, I was greeted to about an hour of closing down the game, restarting the game, server instability, crashes, so on and so forth, error pilot loading data, and, well, that was the most memorable bit. I remember the first video I made, as a matter of fact, when the game first released, and that was the microtransaction video. I then proceeded to go to bed for 5 hours and wake up and lazily try to play it again. When I say not many people were more disappointed with Anthem's launch than me, I mean that. It took almost a month for BioWare to get all the bugs out, or at least attempt to fix stability issues and so on and so forth, before we were finally greeted with 1.0.4. In it, it brought legendary missions, Elysian caches, and loot changes. If you still think Anthem's current loot situation is bad, you have no idea how bad it was during the first few weeks of release. Uncommon, rare, and maybe a few epics would drop on GM3, and more times than not, it would be next to impossible, hours upon hours of grinding to get a legendary piece of gear. Thankfully, after that patch, we were able to get epic, masterwork, and legendary gear only from GM3 and up, and on other difficulty settings, the more uncommon and rare stuff were lower drop rates. Legendary missions allowed us to replay old missions, and Elysian caches were, well, I'm sure some of you will remember, not the greatest thing in the entire world. You would have to complete a daily challenge to get your key, then go run the stronghold, hopefully with a full group of 4 that would also have their keys to open up the chests. Though, unfortunately, more times than not when you opened up the Elysian caches, you were greeted with, well, crafting components, and the crafting system that's currently in the game right now is no different than it was back then. Of course, there were a few cosmetics in there such as decals, a few emotes, but nothing else beyond that. The microtransaction store was still the only source to get any cosmetics, which really sucked, and I voiced very early on my disdain for it. It wasn't until the end of April when we got 1.1.0, which gave us our first new stronghold since the game released, and still our only stronghold that wasn't in vanilla. It was titled the Sunken Cell Stronghold, which was a stronghold that you could only access after the critical path was done. Most of you are familiar with the Sunken Cell Stronghold by now, where you would go down and face off against Harkon's Fury and stop another quote-unquote Cataclysm. But from there, that was the only other stronghold we ever got, and it is rumored that there were 3 more in development as they were detected in the game files, but we have still not seen them, heard them, or known what they would be, even as we're closing down 2019. May and June were pretty quiet months for Anthem, as there was another content drought, though the Anthem 1.20 patch did bring a number of things, such as the compass that would show collectible items as question marks when you were near one. It also gave us the purple target icon to show in the area of free play where an enemy would be that would guarantee a loot drop, and so on and so forth. Some changes were also made to inscriptions to make their, what they did a little bit easier to understand. Those of you who are from launch understand exactly what I'm talking about, up until June 5th, where we got the Cataclysm PTS. The Cataclysm was in PTS mode all the way until August, which was kind of crazy for it to be going on for a full month. By then, PC players had gone through and played the Cataclysm through and through, aside from a few story missions, and the only reason to go and play it from then on was to, collect the loot on your main account. It also introduced inversions, leaderboards, and all sorts of wonderful things. In addition, it introduced for the first time ever quests that would actually give you cosmetics. Now, I do somewhat take that back, as there were a few challenges early on in the release of the game where you had to hunt down titans in the There Be Giants quest, where you could get a vinyl, but those were so few and far between. I think there were only ever 2 in the game. Cataclysm brought with it a lot of cosmetics you could get within these challenges, and also the brand new store, which would also bring about war chests, which would be the first new weapons, gear attachments, support seals, and melee stuff that we had gotten since the launch of the game. But in addition to that, you could also use in-game currency, aside from coins, to purchase things from Herschel's shop, such as armor cosmetics and full-on armor sets, those being much appreciated from the community. The Cataclysm would last for quite a while, and then it would finally shut down, though it didn't go away for very long, as it ended roughly towards the end of August to the very beginning of October. It was around this time where we heard from BioWare's Chad Robertson that they would be canceling Anthem's roadmap in favor of seasonal content in order for them to start reworking the game. The first of these seasonal events, as you all are well aware of, was the Season of Skulls, which saw Fort Tarsus change utterly and completely, not to mention some cool fog and mist effects within free play, bringing with it 3 new free play missions and a slightly modified Cataclysm. Despite the Cataclysm being gone for a few weeks, players were sick of it, and going back to the Season of Skulls, where the Cataclysm was the main focus for the event, it was draining to say the least. To make matters worse, they brought about the most difficult challenge in Anthem's history to date, called the Indomitable Challenge. Now, I'm sure many of you remember how much I complained about the Indomitable Challenge, and I know a lot of you complained about the Indomitable Challenge as it was amply named. However, it was the most rewarding challenge in Anthem's history, as it gave you 4 complete armor sets, 1 for each of the javelins, and the first ever player banner icon since Anthem's release. That being said though, despite some pretty significant changes to free play and, the overall atmosphere of Anthem with this Halloween-themed event, players were really burned out with Anthem, which led to not many people really completing the Indomitable Challenge. Now, I'm glad I managed to do it, but I saved all the grinding towards the end, and I was significantly burned out from the game for myself. It wouldn't be long though before the PTS went up for the Ice Tide seasonal event, which lasted for about 3 to 4 days if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, I was gone at BioWare Austin doing something for the EA Game Changers program, so I was unable to play the PTS, though I found it kind of strange that the PTS was only up for so long. However, thankfully, Ice Tide brought with it easily the best update to Anthem to date. Free play was covered in snow, Fort Tarsus was adorned with snow and lights and wonderful music, and the Cataclysm did not return. Though in place of it, we were given the new strongholds, or technically modified strongholds, with similar Cataclysm scoring mechanics where it would give you crystals that you would go and spend in Herschel's shop to buy war chests and old Cataclysm cosmetics, and each stronghold would release weekly. And it would have its own separate multipliers, changes, and so on and so forth, and free play featured new events such as the timed racing trials, and of course the giant shaper snow globes where we'd go and face off against the outlaws. I've said for a long time now that Anthem can't be a great competitor for games like Destiny and and Warframe without making some significant changes. The seasonal events are a lot of fun, or at least Icetide has been a lot of fun for me, but seasonal events are not enough to replace broken loot systems, a crafting system that hasn't been touched by a single player in ages, and so on and so forth. There's no denying that BioWare has made great strides, and they've given us great updates, but it wasn't until Jason Schreier's article a few months ago where we finally found out that BioWare is working on either a revamp for Anthem, a brand new launcher, or a massive update similar to the Taken King for Destiny. Though that's really all we know about it. They've got something going on, and I don't know what season will be next. Typically, most live service games do a seasonal event for Halloween and something for Christmas, but I don't know anything in between there, and I don't think they would do an Easter event. Though, come what may, I will always be here with Anthem, and I will continue to do your Anthem until the game shuts down, though I don't see that happening anytime soon. I get asked a lot what have been my favorite moments from Anthem, and I know I asked that in the community tab shortly before this video released, and I think the answer's simple for me. It has truly been an honor and a pleasure to get to do this stuff with you all. From making Anthem content, to becoming an EA game changer, to now sitting on the behavioral council for EA, and so much more. I've met people both at BioWare, EA, and in the community who will definitely be best people at my wedding. I've made the best friends of my life through Anthem. I've gotten to see a community develop and grow, and I can't even begin to take credit for it because it has been you all along. I am a very sentimental person, you guys, and I don't just say things to say them. I owe you all a tremendous debt of gratitude, and I will continue doing whatever I can for you all as long as I have the opportunity to do it. And to my friends at EA and BioWare, there are no words. To Andrew Johnson, aka AJ, for all of the incredible opportunities, to Jesse Anderson and Chris Mansell for inviting me into the EA Game Changer program, and eventually inviting me to be a part of the Behavioral Council, to Jennifer and all of the amazing people at EA's community team, and all of the developers I've made friends with over the course of this last year. It's just been an unreal experience. So thank you all, truly. From this redheaded freelancer to you all. I hope you all have a very, very amazing new year, and I look forward to whatever comes next for us, be it Anthem 2.0 or something grander on the horizon. Just remember one thing, my fantastic freelancer friends. We are strong alone, but we are so much stronger together. Happy New Year, everybody.